Alright, so warm-up is done. Let's go on to our lesson for today. Today the objective is students will be able to solve equations and inequalities including variables on both sides. That's actually what we're looking at today. We're looking at how to solve equations with variables on both sides. So let's go over a few things. The distributive property, remember that's 8 times x and then the 8 times 2. Okay, you have to do both. So it would be 8x plus 16. Inverse operations means that you do the opposite of what's happening. So if it's adding, you subtract. If it's subtracting, you add. If it multiplies, you divide. If it's dividing, you multiply. Addition property of equality is meaning if you add on one side, then you must add on the other. Subtraction property of equality means if you subtract from one side, then you must subtract from the other side. Multiplication property of equality means if you multiply on one side, you have to multiply on the other side. Division property of equality means if you divide on one side, you must divide on the other side. If you ever have x equals some number, that means it has a solution, and that is its solution. If you ever have something that does not make sense, like 5 equals 3, 5 does not equal 3, so that's no solution. Infinite solution is when you have the same thing on both sides. Greater than, that means the bigger number will be on this side. Less than, the smaller number will be on this side. Greater than or equal to, the bigger number will be on this side, or the same exact number, because it can be equal to. Less than or equal to, the smaller number will be on this side, or the same exact number, because it's equal to. Alright, so let's go to the worksheet for today. I'm going to do a couple examples with you, and then you're going to be free to do your own thing. Okay, so here's what we want to do. Whenever you see the variable on both sides, we have n on both sides. We're going to solve it like normal, but we have to get all of the variables on one side. So what we're going to do here is I would always suggest to get rid of this side and move it over to this side. You can do either way. It doesn't matter. That's just how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to subtract 6n, and what you do to one side, you must do to the other side. But notice I'm subtracting the n from the n. You cannot subtract 6n from this number because they're different families. You can't do that. So this cancels out. We're left with a 7 over here. 4n minus 6n is negative 2n. Okay? Plus 5. Now this is something we're used to. So the next step would be to get this n by itself. We subtract the 5 from both sides. That cancels. Negative 2n equals, what's 7 minus 5? It's 2. Okay? The next step, these are multiplying, so we need to divide. Don't forget about that negative. Okay? That cancels out, so n equals 2 divided by negative 2 is, type it in, negative 1. Good. So your answer is n equals negative 1. And if you're ever doubting, you can plug into your calculator. You can put negative 1 instead of n and see if it works. Alrighty, so let's go down. Look at number 2. Okay, so number 2. Remember, our goal first is to get all the variables on the same side, okay? So what should we get rid of first, or move first? I'm going to move this 2p by subtracting it, okay? What I do to one side, I must do to the other, okay? The equal sign stays put. 2 minus 2 is 0, so that cancels out. We're left with a 12 on this side. Okay, we just bring down our negative 9 because nothing happened to him. 5 minus 2 is what? It's 3p. Okay, what's our next step here? We need to add our 9. So that cancels. We're left with the 3p equals 12 plus 9 is what? 21. Okay, what's our next step here? This is multiplying, so we need to divide. So P equals 7. Okay, so you'll write that up here. P equals 7. All right. Number 3, let's look at number 3. Remember, all the variables need to be on one side. So what are we going to move first? I want to move the 4P over to here. Okay, it's a negative 4P, so how am I going to move it? You'll add 4P. Good, good. Add 4P. Okay, so that cancels out. What's left on the side is just this 13. Now over here, 3 plus 4 is what? 7P. We just have a minus 8. Okay, what's our next step here? We need to add 8 to both sides. That cancels. So we have 7P equals, what's 13 plus 8? It's 21. What's the next step? Remember, these are multiplying, so we divide by 7. So P equals 3. So you write that here. P equals 3. Okay? Y'all are doing so good. I've been so impressed with your ability to solve equations. Y'all are just doing so good. Okay, so let's go to 4. Okay, so remember, our first step is to what? We need to get all the variables on one side. So what are we going to move? Y'all know I like to move these to this side, so I'm going to subtract the 9. Remember, keep the families together. You cannot subtract the 9 from the 71. That's a no-no. So 9 minus 9 is 0, so that cancels out. We're left with this negative 13. Do not forget your negative. It's very important. Okay, so we have 71. Negative 5 minus 9 is what? Type that in. Negative 5 minus 9. Negative 14. Okay? So what's our next step here? Remember, we're trying to get x by itself, so get the thing farthest away from x on its same side. That's a 71. It's a positive 71, so to get rid of it, we have to subtract 71. Okay, so that ends up being 0. We have negative 14x equals, what's negative 13 minus 71? Negative 13 minus 71. Negative 84. What's our next step? We need to divide by negative 14. These cancel, so it's x equals, what is negative 84 divided by negative 14? Negative 84 divided by negative 14. Don't forget your negatives. Very important. It's 6. So x equals 6. All right, number 5. Let's look at number 5. What do you think our first step here is? What do you think we need to do first? We need to start with a D. Distribute. Okay, so 2 times x is what? It's 2x, good. 2 times negative 6 is what? Negative 12, good. And then equals 3x. Okay, what's our next step here? We're not going to add 12 because notice something. The x's are on both sides. We need to get them all to one side. Okay? So let's go ahead and subtract this 2x. Because you can do it either way. Okay, so 2x minus 2x is 0. We're left with negative 12 on this side. Equals, what's 3 minus 2? 1, right? So we're left with 1x. Looks like that's our answer, huh? X equals negative 12. Okay? Now, I want to look at one more problem with you. We're going to come up here, and we're going to look at problem number 8. Okay? 8 and 7 are very similar, so I'm going to look at number 8 with you. You'll be able to do 7 on your own. Okay, so first things first, what do we need to do first? We need to get all the variables on one side. Okay? So let's go ahead and move this one over to here. So we need to subtract 1/2 x. Subtract 1/2 x. Okay, equal signs here. 1/2 x minus 1/2 x is 0, so that cancels out. We still have the 9. This 15 has nothing, so we leave it as 15. Now we need to find out what is negative 5 over 2 minus 1 over 2. Just use your calculator. Okay, so we have parentheses, negative 5 over 2, parentheses. Type this in with me. Minus, parentheses, 1 divided by 2, parentheses. Yours look like mine? Should. Okay, hit enter. Negative 3. Okay, negative 3. So we have minus 3x. Not hard, huh? What's our next step here? Remember, we're getting x by itself. Our next step is going to be to subtract 15. Okay, so we're left with this negative 3x. Don't forget your negative. Equals 9 minus 15. What is 9 minus 15? Negative 6. Okay, what's next? Remember, these are multiplying. We divide by negative 3. Divide by negative 3. That cancels. So x equals, what is negative 6 divided by negative 3? It's a positive 2. Okay? So x equals 2. Alrighty. You should be able to do the rest of these problems on your own. Be sure to show me all of your work or you will not get credit. Okay? Solve as many problems as you can before the end of class. This worksheet is due today. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions because it's very important that you understand this.